Welcome to Sunday's Got Us Talking, a podcast and community by Lauren Brown and Danielle Bell, because faith and ministry don't stop on Sundays.
We have been loving this season 3 of Sunday's Got Us Talking. We are looking at being able to equip and help those new leaders that might be needing to tackle some important topics, but also those leaders, those seasoned leaders who may just need some time of renewal. And so today is no different. We're so excited. We have a friend to everyone in ministry. So Danielle, let's get started.
I'm so excited to have Bill Emeott here today because on Sunday's Got Us Talking, we talk about that the conversation does not stop on Sunday. And this is a very important one. And Bill has been everywhere in ministry. So if you don't know him, that's on you, not on him, because he has been faithfully serving and resourcing for years. And when we thought about today, talking about relationships and the importance of them, we were like, Bill's got to do this with all his experience. So Bill, thank you for coming today. Tell us kind of just a little bit about all the little things you've juggled in ministry over the years.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be here. I really do appreciate it. It's an honor and a privilege. I have been in ministry over 30 years now in kids ministry. I started in Atlanta, Georgia, served in two churches and kind of two roles. I really started my ministry in music and then transitioned pretty quickly after college into children as music was kind of moving and changing. But in 1996, I took my first full-time all just preschool and kids ministry in Atlanta. I was served there for about 7 years after serving in that other role for 7 years. So 14 years in Atlanta. And then God moved me to Nashville, Tennessee to serve at Lifeway Christian Resources as the lead kids ministry specialist there for almost 17 years. I thought that was, well, to be honest, that was my dream job, and that was the stopping point for me. I was going to put in my 25 and get and and that's where I was going to be. But God had another privilege for me. And so in 2019, right before the pandemic, I moved to Houston, Texas, and I've been here. August 1st will be 7 years serving as the children's minister, grades 1 through 5 at our Loop campus at Houston's First Baptist Church. So that's kind of where I've been.
I do have to say, Danielle, I'm newer to meeting Bill. I've met him, a few times through David Anderson and through Vacation Bible School trainings. But everywhere I go, they're like, Bill, right? You've met Bill, right?
I just learned something new. I didn't know that Bill had the music in his background. So see, we're already learning something new.
Yeah, my bachelor's degree was in music. Thought I wanted to be a music minister my whole life. And God put me in a Vacation Bible School classroom one summer and changed everything.
Love it. Vacation Bible School's coming up. So
That's
those
right.
that are listening this summer, you've either already had it.
We're still looking for people.
Yeah, we'll put a 1-800 number up for all of us if anybody wants to serve.
There you go. Well, Bill, you've had years, you said like 30 plus years in ministry. And so one of the things we want to talk about today, and the topic is on relationships. So what would you say, why relationships matter over programs?
Yeah, I think a lot of times we come out of school, we come into a situation and we really do think, well, we'll get this program, we'll get all our little programs in order and then but I've said this 1,000 times and I try to live by it. I try to teach my team this. It's an old adage. I didn't come up with it, but they really don't care what you know if they don't know that you care. And that doesn't happen in a program. And you have to be intentional. One of my favorite verses in ministry is 1 Corinthians 13:1 when it talks about, and I talk about this too a lot. Are you, noisy gongs and clanging cymbals? Because if you don't have love, then that's what you are. You may have the best Excel spreadsheet. You may have the best, all the cutest, nicest, funnest activities. But if you're just doing the programming and not building relationships with your kids and with your leaders and with your core group, then you're just a clanging cymbal. And so I encourage myself to not be a gong or a clanging cymbal, because without love, without the relationship that love brings you, that's what you become. So it's primary. You will not be successful in ministry if you cannot figure out the relationship aspect.
Okay, we could end right there. I mean, that's some hard truth. If you're new, or maybe you're been there 20 years, if we can't figure out relationships, we're just going to be a bunch of clanging. And I don't have the perfect spreadsheet, so I really have to figure out some relationships. What I noticed, Bill, when you told about your history, is it was like 14 years, and then 17 years, and then over 7 years. I think some of that longevity helps with that. And we could talk flowery about relationships, but we need some practical. So you've been some places a little bit. So you've had to practically put this into practice, because you have been successful, and you minister to so many other leaders in ministry. So how are you practically putting that relationship building into practice?
Well, a friend of mine, Delaney Williams, taught me this. We served together at Lifeway for a few years before I moved back to moved to Texas. She's from Texas. She moved to Nashville. I moved to Texas. She told me, you have to walk slowly through the crowds. And I have thought about that 1,000 times. On Sunday morning, I am busy. I mean, I am going at it. I don't really have time to talk to you most Sunday mornings. But if you do that, you're going to find yourself in a mess. Walking slowly, which, okay, here's the practicality of that. Are you prepared? Did you what it took to not have to walk slowly on Sunday morning? Did you prepare well through the week? Have you got all your subs that you need? Because, doing that, getting ready and preparing yourself so that you can walk slowly through the crowds, and being intentional, know what's going on in their lives, know what's going on in their lives. I'm in a large church. We're all three kind of in large churches. But even in a small church, you need to develop a team around you that you can share the joy of building relationships with. Because I can know, Jesus, he had 3 that he really poured into. So, I can't really pour into 85 leaders on Sunday morning, but I can have a core that I really pour into. But then that core needs to pour.
Right.
For that to happen like that. But those people, then they it's kind of like the commercial, and then they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends. So I talk about sharing the joy. I can't do it all, but I can model it with my core group of leaders. And then we have assigned out our larger group of leaders. And hopefully we're modeling that so that then it gets down to our kids and our families and our Sunday school teachers. We call it Life Bible Study, but our Sunday school teachers are sharing the joy, and they're building relationships. So modeling that to your team and hoping that and encouraging them to do the same. I think it's important to add relationship time, building time to your schedule. I had an appointment at 9, at 10, 11, at 12, at 1, at 2, and at 2:30. I mean, it was just nuts. Yesterday was nuts. Some of it was really good, and some of it was like, no. But
Could have been an email, right?
It could. Well, I have a mug on my desk. It says, I just left a meeting that could have been an email. But regardless, you've got to schedule building relationships with people. We're all really, really busy. We're really, really busy. My schedule's busy. Their schedules are busy. So building relationships with people and putting that into your day timer or whatever you use. I also think it's important to create opportunities in your programming for relationships. So in the conversation I feel like I'm having with you guys today, we're talking about relationships with leaders. There's also times you need to build relationships with kids, and you need to build relationships with parents. Yes, yes, and yes. But when we have our training, is it just come in, you're our volunteer, here it is, go, boom, thank you, leave, building some fun into those opportunities. So like I said, we're all busy. We want them to come to our trainings. We want them to come to our Sunday morning huddles, or whatever you call yours. Is there opportunity to build relationships in there? We've done silent disco. We've done singo bingo. We do something every quarter called Wada Leader, where we serve Wada burgers and honey buttered chicken biscuits.
Yes.
And everybody comes for that, but it's only about a 45-minute window, but we intentionally put about 20 minutes of just fellowship. and relationship time. If you don't do that, if you're not intentional about it, you won't do it. It's just a lot easier to hurry through the halls, hurry to the next thing, schedule times to build relationships.
That's so convicting because that's one of my goals on my annual ministry plan is to get better because that helps your culture, right? And they want to come back because they have not only a relationship with you, but relationships with each other. And I've been convicted in the past of, okay, how do I get to the sanctuary for announcement time? I'll go out this door, like I'm planning a path not to see people. Now,
It's
there are times, there are times you have to do that when you have to be on the platform at a certain time. But I love that. Like I am a much more relational leader when I've gotten to church early. It's all set up. And I'm saying, I can't wait to see you instead of, I'm going to talk to you in just a second when I put some fires out. Lauren, I know you're big on relationships and team. What are you doing to kind of make that as a priority in your ministry?
Do love relationships. I do have to say I'm going to talk, a little bad about myself right now because I do have to say it's not a strength of mine. I can
mm,
be relational all day long and people wouldn't know because that's like a surface level relationship, but I miss the mark for the depth, for really checking in because when you're one person, like Bill said, it's really hard to be that person for everyone. And hospitality is not a gift of mine. Like I would love to be better with all these ideas that Bill is talking about. So I do have to make sure I have a team around me. So I definitely have two people on my team who that is their giftedness. They're the decoration and the atmosphere of community and the bringing the meals to people. I'll create a budget line for you in the budget if you will do it. And not that I don't think it's important or don't want to do it, but it's just I have to try really hard. And other people on my team, it's just supernatural. But we do work at it, and I do believe it is important. And it's so important that I have to make sure I'm working on it, and I have to put people on my team that will help me because it is really important. Okay, any other ideas? We good? I know that with this, I'm like already writing down the Whataburger. I love
No,
that.
I'm stealing
hey,
all of
I
Bill's.
I
Yes.
need to say I stole that too. That's Stephanie Chase. Stephanie
Oh,
did Wada Leader, and we stole it, and we have orange aprons that say Wada Leader on them, and we serve on orange trays and orange. It's crazy, but I did steal it. So what there? I think there's a Bible verse somewhere. I don't think I know. I just don't know the reference. There's
that
nothing
gives us
new under
permission.
the sun.
Yes.
Nothing new. Nothing new.
So still Wada Leader. I stole it.
I love me some Stephanie Chase. I have stolen things from her as well because she's a fantastic leader. But I think we do have to do that in ministry, especially when we find our weaknesses. That's how we grow and we get better from other people around us. Bill, what would you say to just when you're talking about making relationships a priority? So for me, I might struggle a little bit with that. What would you tell me to say, like, to help me make that a priority in the future?
Like I said before, I have to put it on my calendar. At our church, we have 4 campuses, and one of the things I do just to make sure I have a relationship with the other children's ministers is schedule lunch with them. Now, it's easier because we're all men, so I don't have to worry about that factor. But when it's a lady, I invite my associate to go with us, but just making sure and being very intentional because I'm good at spreadsheets too, Lauren. I'll kind of like that. I think administration is one of my gifts, and I can do that all day and I want to do that all day. But if I'm not very, very, very intentional about it and schedule it, do it, think about it. I'm also a checklist kind of guy. I like to make little squares and then take the checklist. I don't want to exit out. That's nasty. But I just want to check it off. So put it on your to-do list. And the other thing is I am very busy on Sunday and I'll hear that somebody's having surgery, but I won't remember it. So I carry a 3x5 card. And it's bigger than 3x5. I keep them everywhere, and I keep one in my pocket and I write it down because I won't remember. And it becomes a task. That sounds like an ugly word, but it becomes a task to send a card. It becomes a task to follow up on it, and I'm task oriented. Give me a deadline and I'll be there. That's how I am too. So I have to create those spreadsheets of building relationships.
Yeah, I think that's for me too. And I look at my ministry assistant for preschool, and she'll go sit in the coffee shop and have conversations with these new moms who are walking in the office, and she's thriving in that. I'm like, I wish I had a little bit more of that in me. Like, cuz sometimes at the beginning of ministry, I did feel bad, like, am I in the right role? Because ministry is really about relationships, and like we're talking about today, if you don't make relationships a priority, you're missing something in ministry. So I do love people and I love discipleship. It just doesn't come naturally. And I've had to grow in that. So if you're a minister listening to this today, it is okay if it's not your giftedness. We can pray and ask for wisdom. I've done that many times to help me be better. And so I think we could all say that here today for
Well,
sure.
and I think that we all receive the fruit singular of the spirit when we become Christians, and gentleness, kindness, all those things. Now, I may not be good at gentleness, but that doesn't give me the right to not be gentle. You know,
Right.
I may not be good at building relationships, but in ministry, that doesn't give us the right to not do it.
Mm.
Yes, and I think I can be hard on myself because I do want to be good at all things, and I know I'm not. But I really do try, and I think relationship is important. And I
Yeah.
know that over the years, we've all three of us have been in ministry for years, and so things have changed in ministry over the years. So, do you see anything different, Bill, in relationships and how that's changed over the years?
Thought about that, and I really have, and I'm probably getting ready to be offensive, but here we go.
Say the
People,
hot take. Say the
I know
hot take.
people are busy. I get it. People are private, more private than they've ever been in the past. I am too. I think one of the worst things that's this is silly, but one of the worst things that's happened is the garage. When I was growing up, we grew up with a carport. You got out of the car and you saw your neighbors. Now I push the button, I go in and I push the button before I ever come out. It's kind of just who we have become as a society. The way we build communities kind of changed, and I'm not so sure it's always good. um, we have emails versus home visits. It's not the same. We have texts versus phone calls. And I'm just going to tell you, it's not always my fault. I can make a phone call and they will not pick up the phone as if they're not home. And I will text them and they reply immediately. I know they had their phone in their hand, but they chose not to answer it.
They
But
did not know your number. They're not answering that strange
that's
number.
right. Sometimes I will text first because I still have a Nashville area code, 615. And so I will text first. This is Bill Emeott. I'm getting ready to call you. I need to talk to you about XYZ. Hope I wanted you to know who I was, and then maybe they'll answer. But even the people I know my number don't like to talk on the phone. And it's different. You can't hear somebody's heart really in the text, no matter how many emojis you use. Heart, 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 smiley, 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 smiley. It's just not the same. And I think we have to be careful about that. I think that it's not all on us. Um, if they don't answer the phone, they don't answer the phone. If they don't answer your emails, they don't answer your emails. And quite frankly, if somebody knocks on my door and I look through the peephole and I don't know who they are, I'm not answering the door. So we have to just work through that a little bit. So things have changed about how you build relationships because they're just as busy on Sunday morning at some level as you are. So stopping in the hallway and having a 3-minute conversation can be cumbersome, but it goes back to slowing down a little bit, thinking about it, and being intentional about it, because I don't think you get relationships. And it's me, I'm 63. Genuine relationships through emails and text.
No, and I know I know how I've been convicted seeing the changes. There's no longer a time where you can say, I'll talk to them next week, or I'll talk to them tonight, Sunday night, because we don't have Sunday night, or I'll talk to them Wednesday night because they're less and less coming. I say all the time, if I wasn't on a church staff, I don't know how many Wednesday nights I'd come as a single mama because it's hard. And I think with our percentages of them coming less, intentionality, I hate to use that as a buzzword, but that's the truth. You got to make that time. And if you see them, you can't say, I'll get with them, like, and talk to them right then, because you may not see them. I mean, what our cores come in 25%. You may not see them, for 3 or 4 more weeks. So I think we've got to be so intentional in that time. And then, this may be a hot take too, but I think we've got to look, we got child protection rules now, with, and even, our pastor is, we're doing a year of prayer, and our pastor's like, look, I want us to be so above reproach so that Satan does not get in. So even when we text the opposite sex, we have a third person on there, or meetings. So, it's not like you can just go, it falls in your lap. Sometimes you've got to think through it for just protection, for the enemy getting a foothold, and then just child protection. But I would say for me, what I've seen is I got to be intentional. I may not have another chance to have that conversation because I may not see them, again. Now, Bill, we love some personal stories on here. Okay. There's nothing as powerful as a story sometimes. So can you share a moment when you just simply being present for someone had a greater impact than any wonderful program or event you would have done?
Right. I've had a couple, and not going to use work names or anything like that, but obviously sickness, when someone is struggling with illness, that's huge. So there's been plenty of times where people have have had major illnesses in their life, and again, honey, I'll pray for you as you're walking through doesn't fit at that moment, and it's easier and it's simpler, and yeah, I am going to pray for you, but stopping and praying in that moment with someone who's been diagnosed with cancer and they're starting that journey, that's huge. That's huge. The death of a family member or the death of someone who's really, really close, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. We have to be present there. But I'm going to talk about a time where leader friend of mine had found himself in a sinful situation, and I was I was given the privilege to walk in that with him, and just being there for him and praying with him through that, and helping him um, talk through restoration and what that looked like. That person is more present, and that was 25 years ago. That person is as present in my life today as they were then, because you don't get past that. That's somebody who had your back. And
Mhm.
it's not always pretty. Ministry's not always pretty. Loving people is not always easy. But when you do that, when you walk into the depth of that, it will change the relationship. It changes the ministry. It changes everything. So that's just showing up for people when they really need you to show up.
That's powerful. Here's just a simple, I think, idea. I know I try to put in my calendar when a leader or even a good friend's family member dies. So, not just the first year they get a card, every year after, and maybe it's a text, they will remember that day for the rest of their life. But for us to, you know, put that in there, like, maybe you're not as close as you were with that guy. And I love that you shared that, Bill, because that's the real church right there. But just even putting it, there's you schedule people, put it in your calendar so every year you can reach out on that day because they'll never forget that day.
Yeah, I think some with me, even personal experiences, even back when I was younger and adults or ministers that poured into me, it
Mm.
changes things. I had two ladies in our church in my, I guess you would say, high school, college age group, that I would consider my prayer partners, who would say, "How can I pray for you?" Meet me and say, "Let's meet up for breakfast so that we can pray together." And that was foundational for me in high school and college as I continue. But they invested the time. They reached out to me. I wasn't reaching out to them because I'm a young adult thinking I know exactly what to do with my life.
Right.
But these are older, wiser leaders that made a difference, and I want to be able to be that for others as
I
well.
think it's important to find those people in your life. For me, it really is um, getting harder at 63. Who's 73, 83, well, that's harder. But I'm trying to be intentional to do that for younger ministers. I really do want to invest in younger ministers or younger people, so that they can carry on the work that God's called me to do. And so finding those people who are wiser and know just a little bit more, they're right ahead of you. They've raised their kids, or they're right ahead of you. It's so important, I think, to make sure that those people are in your life and that you're that person for the person behind you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bill, we're the freshman class of old people. Me and you, I saw that the other day. Our age, we that's what they're calling us, the freshman class of the senior adults. So yeah, it is harder to find those people ahead of us.
We like to talk a lot, especially since season 3 is all about either new to ministry leadership or renewal and evaluation. So, what is like one thing you would say right now to a new leader for focusing on a brand new leader, 1 to 2 years into ministry? What would you say?
Well, you might not know it yet, but you're going to make a big mistake, at least one. You're going to make a huge mistake. And if they love you, they will have your back. If you may not think you're going to do anything wrong, quite frankly, you're not going to admit it if you do, but you need to know that that's going to happen, and you're going to need somebody on your team behind you. You're going to need somebody who is going to be there for you, and if needed, they're going to vote for you. They're going to be there for you. And if you've not built relationships with anyone, then you're going to be hung out to dry. I have seen a lot of people, and even at the very beginning in my ministry, where I didn't think it was important to have someone like that, or have people, plural, like that in my life. But then when it comes down to it, and you've done something dumb, and I don't necessarily mean sin, I might just mean, just you snob, you went by the wrong person. I don't know what it would be, but whatever it is, you need somebody to have your back. You need to have developed that inner circle, those friends, those relationships, so that when you do something stupid, they've got your back. So if maybe that's not a great motivating factor, but the truth is those things happen, and you
Yes.
need to have built relationships with people. Relationships are the most important thing on our team's agenda every week. There's an agenda that says relationships, 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 because it's the most important thing we do. Don't don't think it's not. Be intentional.
And, Bill, I would not say that well, I don't know what I can say about the intent, but I've heard the same thing before. I've been told in leadership, make yourself available for relationships. And one of the things that I was taught, early in my 20s in ministry was to go to the senior adult classes. And
Yes.
so on Sunday mornings, I make it an effort. And I love what you said about walking slow, because I'm a fast walker. And so I have to slow myself down on Sunday mornings, but I will intentionally go to the older Sunday school classes or small group classes and just peek my head in and say, "Hey, so glad y'all are here today," because they are the ones that if you create a relationship with are going to have your back when you need scholarships for camp or when you need
Right.
extra vacation Bible school supplies. When you have relationships with others, even if they're not your core volunteers, they will make a difference and they will have your back. So
Mhm.
100% Bill, I think that is
Yeah.
very good for our new leaders to hear today. What about those seasoned leaders, just like you,
Yeah.
Bill?
Don't give up. You know,
Mm.
Galatians 6 says, "Don't grow weary in doing good work." You know, it can the older I've gotten, I can't believe this because I watched it in my parents, I watched it in my grandparents, I never dreamed it would happen to me. You get tired. You get tired earlier, bed looks nicer,
Yes, yes.
TV looks less interesting as far as that, between that and going to sleep. Take care of yourself because nobody else can do that for you. And then don't grow weary in building relationships and new relationships. I don't want to just have the 25-year-old relationships that were at two churches past, you know, building relationships now. And again, with people who are younger than you, your team. Um, it's easy for me to want a lot of 60-year-olds on my team because I feel like I can relate, but it's better to have a lot of 30-year-olds and 20-year-olds on your team. So building relationships, spending the energy, spending the time, spending the what it takes to do it. Don't grow weary. Let's not grow tired of doing good works. because I think it's the most important thing we do.
Bill is dropping some hard truths today. Bill, when you were talking about you're going to make one mistake, I just kept seeing that little index card in your pocket. And I was like, if that was me, I would run out of room for all the mistakes that I would be making. So we are like, you're gonna make a ton. I'm gonna be Bill's being sweet. You're gonna blow it. If you're like me, you're gonna blow it. So I love that that advice because you need that relationship capital, you know? So they're like, okay, she's really not nuts. She's really a great person. She must have just blown it this one time.
You don't even know they're doing that for you sometimes. When I was younger, well, I still say stupid things, but I said some really stupid things in ministry that somebody else cleaned up for me, and I didn't even know they were at the time. So it was a relationship though that did that for me.
All right. So, as a leader for you, looking back on your ministry journey, you've kind of hit on that. Is there any other just relationships that have impacted you most as a leader that you're like, I will treasure this, you know?
Yes, I can go all the way back to the beginning. Like I said earlier, I transitioned from music ministry to kids ministry, and before I took a break and went and got my formal education in kids ministry at New Orleans Seminary, I had some mentors in my life, people who invested in me: Margaret Rogers, Sue Rother, Susie Webb, Kim Harris, Claire May Van Brink, people who loved on me and came into my life, and we built relationships, and we still call and text and laugh and have fun with each other. Those are important, as particularly for young ministers, and they become important. I'm hopeful that they're important to those ladies who were helping me learn these things. So again, paying it forward, paying it back, however you look at it. People who became more than volunteers in my life, in my ministry, in my churches, people who I went to lunch with, people who I went to dinner with, people who I showed up when their babies were born, people who I did life with, people who I went to the baseball field to see their kids, and then that develops into a relationship where they're coming to help you change your tires or suck water out of your house because it's flooded. People who show up at your parents' funeral,
Uh,
from years and years ago, people who after years still care for you. I'm telling you, folks, that's life. That's what's important. And I'm single, so for me, it's even more important because both my parents have passed. Siblings live in different states. Um, if it weren't for the relationships that I've built at work and at church and through ministry, it would not be any fun. And so my words are: do it, and enjoy it, and find those people who you can build relationships with. Model that for your leadership team. Have a core group of people that you build relationships with. Let that grow your ministry. Let them know how much you love them. All the things. It's just so important. And like I said, those people that started me on that journey are still important in my journey now.
I love that. That's so important. Those people that show up in those personal hard times later. That's when you know it was more than just a job, you know?
So we've encouraged. I'm encouraging you to do that for other people, but they do it for you back.
Mhm. I love that. I know when I think about impacting as a leader, I think about people that took a chance on me when they had no reason to, because I was clueless, and I always say Chris Yount Jones from Children's Ministry Magazine took a chance on me to teach years ago. And I was like, me? I don't, and then even after 15 years in ministry, when I went to Birmingham, my boss, Jan Jones, I only had her for 2 years, but I say I learned more about leadership in those 2 years because she refused to let me stay the leader that I'd been.
Oh
And
wow!
I hated confrontation. But she said, that's part of it, like, so those leaders. But I love that y'all talked about the senior adult. And I don't know if it's because VBS is coming up, but I'm telling you, one of my most treasured groups is our High Five guys. Most of them are senior adult men. when would I call them the little VBS fraternity because they're just this little boy, these guys over here with their bubble guns. And when would I spend that quality time with senior adult men, without them? And so that I'm always kind of over that little group. So I always go talk to them. And some of them have had to retire now because they've gotten too old to physically do it. But just the relationships that even from Birmingham that I still get texts going, "Hey, you're like a daughter to me. How you doing?" And I love it, because one of them, was on the Deacons, and he'd come and see me all the time. And he'd be like, "It was another tie vote to fire you, but I broke the tie tonight." Just that fun kind of relationship that you've got to build. So if you're new, I would say don't just build them in your age. Make sure you have an intergenerational relationship packet because you're going to be blessed from both ends. Lauren, what about you? What's blessed you the most as a leader?
Yeah, I think right now, what I'm learning and taking away from you, Danielle and Bill, and I get hard on myself because I'm not naturally the one seeking it out, but I have always been gifted at being available. And so even if you're not the one seeking out it, I am available. I'm there if you need me. And so I'm able to have relationships across the board. And for those times where you might need some little extra help, someone to have your back. I do feel like that is because I'm available. So whether it's for the parents that need to talk about something that's going on in their kid's life, my door is open. If I have a family, mom that's struggling with a child, the door is open. If I have volunteers that are struggling, the door is open and I'm available. But I'm also walking the halls. I'm walking up and down the halls. I'm not closed up in my door. So I think there's a difference in being available. I had people that were available to me and modeled that to me. And I think that's what helped me out and helped me grow in this not giftedness and hospitality.
Lauren, you're so hard on yourself, but I know you
Yeah,
also pick up and drive hours for anybody that calls. So
I
Right.
y'all
do.
don't listen to Lauren. She is very hard on herself, but when she says available, she doesn't just mean the phone or her office door. She will pack up the car and drive to you. So
Yes, I
lighten the
do have
load,
a
Lauren.
heart.
Quit being
I have
hard.
a heart for others, so I do have to say that, but I have to work really, really hard to have a hospitable, because I'm not naturally gonna cook meals and bring it to people, but I need that help and support, but I am available. So if you are listening and you are a leader, you don't have to be perfect at it, you don't have to be gifted at it, but you are gonna need to be available and be open to communication. Walk slowly, Bill. I love that. I love that. I'm gonna take that away, from
We
today.
should have that like tattooed on our office door, like when we walk out, walk
Walk out,
slowly,
walk slow. I love it, and walk out of your office, go up
Yeah.
and down the halls, be available. I do think that that is an important part. You're being seen by others, you're able to smile, say hi, and be there for a prayer, to stop and pray for someone if you need to. So, definitely making that note, slow down, slow down. But Bill, here at Sunday's Got Us Talking, we always like to resource our people. So, if you have any books, blogs, podcasts that you like to listen to that would help our listeners learn more about relationships.
I think that, well, finding this is going to sound real spiritual, but making sure that you're reading the Bible because that's where all the answers are going to be found. Making sure that you've taken the time to do that. I think it's really, really important because that's where it is. Finding blogs and I don't vlogs, whatever they're called now, finding online information. Magazines are now turned into electronic magazines, but finding those things, Kids Ministry 101 is a great resource
Yes.
way. They always have practical helps, and most every time there's at least one article that would fit this topic of relationships. I think listening to podcasts is important. That's something to do. I have a long commute here in Houston, and so it's 45 minutes on a good day, and so it's 45 there, 45 back. I've got two options. I can listen to a dumb fiction book that I enjoy, or I can take some of that time to listen to podcasts. There's a podcast from the SBC with Jeff Orge called Leadership, on Leadership. It's a really good leadership podcast. I'd encourage that one. There's several others that are through Lifeway that I enjoy listening to because I know the people who are talking, and so I can kind of envision that. But those are really great resources. Um, I cannot overemphasize having friends in ministry. One of my favorite things to say to a young person, a young minister, is you need a best friend in ministry who does not have the same pastor as you. That's not the youth minister, that's not the women's minister, that's not the women's minister's husband in my case, you know, not your case. But you need a best friend in ministry who does not have the same pastor as you, and build that relationship with them so that you can call and say, "You're not gonna believe what he did." You know? And and then they still can go to worship on Sunday. And
Right.
I also say to those of you who are married, it doesn't need to be your spouse. Now, don't keep things from your spouse, but you need a relationship with someone who it's not gonna affect their Sunday morning when you do
Mhm.
all your business, so I don't know. For me, that's been really, really helpful, and, again, I have to always remember, don't just have one, but be one.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a great ending to think about too with our relationships is that we do have to protect relationships as well. We have to be careful in ministry when we have relationships with our volunteers or other leaders that we are not talking about how we feel, our frustrations sometimes with leaders within our church. So I think it's really important that we make note to have those leaders outside the church and those best friends that we can have that we can talk about how we feel. Danielle, did you have any?
Phil, and how are you doing this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right now for us, and I'm sure y'all don't have this issue, we're having a volunteer crisis at some level.
Across the board, across the
Yeah,
board.
across the board.
So just calling somebody and saying, "What are you doing? How are you getting this done?" Is so helpful.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Lauren, that's what this podcast came out of. Again, you little millennials and Gen Zers, we're on Marco Polo, and I know that makes us old. But Lauren and I, because we can't always talk, because I'm in car pickup and she may, but I'd get on and go la 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 la, and then she could come, and I'm like, what do I do? And then she can come back with, okay, I've thought about it. So we can sit there and dump. And sometimes we're like, we just got to talk about this, face to face. But we have that safe place to dump and go, what should I do? What idea do you have? Because that's y'all were all on the same team. Like the thing that Whataburger, he stole it. Stephanie doesn't care, and Bill doesn't care if you stole it from him. Like just get it done. It's not about credit.
Yeah, we love resources. And so, most of you, if you've gone to Sundays Got Us Talking or gone to our Substack, you will see a list of resources. We'll attach them to the podcast show notes here. So, Bill, we're so thankful that you came today.
Bill, you killed it.
I've
Well,
loved every minute of
thank
it.
you.
Now
It
I
was a
can say,
privilege. It really is a privilege. You two ladies are stellar, doing great work. I've enjoyed getting to know you over the years and watching you and sitting under you and training opportunities. So thank you for the privilege.
we're so happy you're here. And we love to pray at the end of our podcast, and we'd love to pray for you and the listeners. So, Danielle, would you mind closing us in prayer today?
Close us out. Here we go. Father God, we do just come to you. And God, I'm just so thankful in our complete imperfection that you gave us the model of Jesus. And I just love that Bill said, get in the word. Because if we want to know what you want us to know about relationships, we can just look at Jesus. He did it perfectly. And so, God, I just pray right now for the leader maybe that's listening, that's weary and just needs to sit down and open the word and see Jesus. And God, we just ask, God, just for the new leaders, God, that you would just illuminate people, just show them, just kind of show them, hey, that's somebody I want to have a conversation with. And God, bring people into their lives. And God, if somebody here is listening that just needs a friend, God, that they'll reach out to somebody in their area that does ministry and say, hey, I can't do this alone anymore. And God, we thank you for Bill. We thank you for his ministry in Houston. God, as we across the board, God, we know the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And as I've been challenged lately, God, do we really believe it's plentiful if we're not begging for the workers because we need them? And God, we cannot force people to work. And that's why it's such a struggle across the board. So we are asking you, God, in the name of Jesus, to do a supernatural work among your people. Show them, God, just like I've seen by a retired man in our church that is like, whatever you need. And I had to call him again to serve this Sunday. And he said, I am happy to serve the Lord with any time I have. God, would you make that so of many more people? God, not so that Bill and Lauren and I look good or our churches look good. God, we want to make people see you, God. It's about your fame and your glory. So we ask that you bring the people. God, we thank you for relationships that we have in ministry, and God, may we just continue to grow closer to you and closer to each other. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah. Thanks for joining the conversation today. Be sure to join the community at SundaysGodIsTalking.com and on your favorite social media platform.